as you go through networking, don't go through all the hard part of getting the leads and then not follow up on those leads. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Real Estate Investors Club podcast. This is a bit of a special episode. I am broadcasting from the REWBCON, Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference in Phoenix, Arizona. And the conference organizers are kind enough to set up a booth where us podcasters can record a show live. And so what I wanted to do in this solo episode is just give you a little bit of my impressions of the conference and also try to give you some of the value that I've gotten from being here for the past couple of days. So the first thing, I'm going to show you the conference booklet. The theme of the conference is Stronger Together. And what I really like about that is that, in the real estate space, real estate's a people business. And so we spend really a lot of time, networking and putting ourselves out there to try to make connections and to meet people. And, for someone who's a raging introvert like me, that can be a little bit difficult sometimes. And I think this mindset going in that just sets the tone of Stronger Together is really this idea that the people who you meet on your networking journey at conferences or, for example, at our monthly networking events, really to the extent that you can see that as, building a community of people that is going to help lift each other up. It's going to make your networking experience a whole lot more positive, and also help you support the people that are around you. And, one of the keynote speeches that I attended yesterday was actually by the conference organizer called Dustin Heiner, and I will tell you in a few minutes how we came to be connected. But he used this metaphor of people who are, following one another. And when you go to networking events, you go to conferences, if this is where you are in the game, there will be people who are a few steps ahead of you, and there will be people who are a few steps behind you. And, we all started at that place, like right over here at the very beginning of a journey. And the ability to be, an example and to be a resource, to be a mentor for those people who you are ahead of, even if you've only taken the first 2 steps of your journey, right? There will be people who are following you that you can help through whatever knowledge you have, through whatever connections you can make. And there are the people who are ahead of you on the journey. And, I think a lot of us suffer from imposter syndrome. A lot of us have, a hard time maybe asking those questions that would help us level up because it exposes ignorance. I know that, for me, that was a challenge for a really long time. And so to be able to just go into a networking event, whether it's themed Stronger Together or not, go into a conference with that in your mindset, really take some of the pressure off of what you're trying to do in terms of networking, to think of the fact that when I'm having those get to know somebody conversations, the person who you're meeting might be a total beginner, in which case you can, put yourself into the mindset of what can I do to help this person make connections? What can I do to give them a little bit of knowledge that they're going to be able to walk out of here with? And then if somebody's ahead of you, that doesn't have to be some kind of an ego problem. It's more something of I'm going to go into this with a learning mindset, and if there's some question, some piece of information, some connection that this person has, maybe, I can bring the conversation in such a way that I can open the door for them to help me if they should want to walk through it. So that's the first thing with respect to the conference. Then I wanted to just pull a couple of things out of this booklet because I think the conference organizers did a really good job of putting together, kind of a playbook of the kind of thought process you want to have when you're going into a conference or going into networking. And once again, not everybody who's listening to this is going to feel like you're at a place where you want to, travel across the country or go to the States to spend 3 days at a real estate conference. But if you're listening to this podcast, it's probably because you are going to networking events or you want that to be part of, how you're growing your business. And so how you use those moments is actually really important. So, one of the first things that they have us do when we get here is to set a 1-year and a 5-year goal for ourselves. And, I would suggest that if you're coming to our monthly networkings, that's something that you do coming in. So, buy yourself a scrapbook, buy yourself some kind of little thing where you are revisiting your goals on a regular basis. And it doesn't have to be, before monthly networking, but it could be. And you could take 1 hour out of your time to really review those goals and think about, what am I trying to accomplish? And then transforming that into a success plan. So having, 1-year term goals or, 5-year goals, those are long time horizons. And in order to make sure that you stay on track, one of the essential things of goal setting, which I'm sure you guys know, is to break that into smaller aspects. And I've spoken on this topic before, but as far as, breaking up goals, there are 2 ways in which you can do that. And I've had a previous episode on habit goals as opposed to outcome goals. So what's the difference between a habit goal and an outcome goal? A habit goal is some kind of a productive habit that you want to build that's going to bring you somewhere. So I think dieting is a really good example of this, that you can have a plan of somewhere you want to go and actions you want to take to get there. But the habit goals, so for example, put all the sweet stuff away where you're not going to encounter it in the kitchen when you're moving around the kitchen, might be a habit goal. Or let's say you want to work on something in personal development. Sometimes it's not so easy to find metrics in that or to cut that up into smaller pieces, but you can for sure set a habit goal of reading 20 minutes of personal development material every day, or having a 10-minute meditation. It's hard to metric those kind of things. And then the other aspect of making sure you're staying on track for goals is metrics. And in terms of talking about what you can measure can be improved. And so if your goal is going to be something, I want to improve my relationships, or I want to grow my business. Those are super vague goals that unless you set up some kind of metrics that are going to allow you to track that and then measure them as you progress through time, it's going to be very difficult to see progress and to track progress. And so what the conference organizers, invited us to do is to make that 1-year goal, that 5-year goal, and then break up those 2 things into either building success habits or to create some metrics that are going to allow you to see how you're progressing through that. Then one of the other things that I really appreciated about the questions that they have in the booklet is talking about who do you want to follow up with after the conference and what do you want to explore with them. So I think for those of us who do a lot of networking, this is really, really relevant because you've gone to an event, you've gone to a conference, you've made these great contacts. First of all, are you organized about the way in which you're organizing that information? So it's very good to add someone on social media or to put their contact in your phone, but are you being intentional about how you carry out those follow-ups? Are you setting a time limit for yourself afterwards, 24 hours, 48 hours, to reach out to that person and say, I enjoyed our conversation, and then take some kind of next steps in the relationship? Is it, in my case, have them on the podcast or have some kind of business development meeting? As you go through networking, don't go through all the hard part of getting the leads and then not follow up on those leads, not follow up on those relationships kind of in an organized and timely manner. And so, I just, in my phone, have a note open that says everybody, a track of everybody who I met at the conference that I want to follow up with. And then I'm going to set myself kind of a time limit in terms of how I want to process that and the emails that I want to send. So I think, as you go through your networking activities, be it at a conference or be it, at different networking events, be intentional, set a goal for yourself. I'm going to reach out to the people that I met at this event, the ones that I want to stay in contact with, within 24 hours after the event in order to make sure that it actually takes place.
Have you really been listening to the episode, or has your monkey mind been taking you off in one direction or another? Our mental habits can be our biggest assets or our biggest liabilities as we pursue certain goals. For me, the biggest performance gains have always come from training my mind. In my book, Mindful Landlord, I talk about how you can train your mind and how you can apply some of these strategies to your journey in the real estate field. The book is available on Amazon and also on its website, mindfullandlord.com. Now I'll stop evangelizing for the power of mental training and let you get back to the show.
Then one of the other questions they ask us to think about, and I think this is, so important in terms of how you go about attaining the goals that you set for yourself, is around boundaries or around the obstacles that we might meet. So, for example, I'm going to walk out of here with some goals for my business. I'm going to walk out of here with some personal development goals. But it's also a reality that there are things that are interfering with my capacity to follow through on that. And, as a mom of a small kid, definitely at one point in my life, childcare was one of those barriers. And, for me, I had all these wonderful goals in my business. I had these great fitness goals, but if you don't have a way of getting the other obstacles out of your way so that you can focus on the goals, you can really, grind yourself and feel bad because you're not having the time to work on the things that you set out for yourself. So, as part of any goal-setting activity that you want to carry out, it's also important to think about what are the things that might get in my way. And one of those aspects are time aspects. So what other things do I need to delegate? What do I need to get off my plate? What do I need to say no to in order for this to happen? And it might even be the way in which you order the beginning of your business day. So you come into the office or you start with emails. What are you doing first? Are you answering all of the emails that came in willy-nilly over the night? Or are you taking that first half hour to intentionally get your own checklist out of the way before you become a slave to everyone else's intentions? Then another thing is, who is most likely to get in your way? In terms of, and I think there's two answers to that. One of them is, I could get in my own way. So not just with at times and, allowing myself to be distracted or get off track with my priorities, but in terms of, my own self-sabotage, or what kind of bad mental habits do I have that when it's time to execute on this particular task, I'm looking for some kind of a way out. And if you're intentional about how you can anticipate that and see, when did I get off track? What sidetracks me? I am my own adversary, my own biggest foe in a lot of these things. We all are. And then, in terms of the other people that surround you, are there relationships, are there people who are somehow, holding you back or preventing you from attaining your goals or having the time that you want to set out? And then how do you manage those relationships? How do you manage those obstacles in such a way that you clear them out so that you're able to have the time and the mind space and the motivation to work on whatever your goals are? So, that's kind of my brain dump of some of the reflections, some of the thoughts that I've had while being at the conference. Obviously, I can also tell you it's been a really great experience, and I think that we at the Real Estate Investors Club have a bunch to learn from events like this that are very supportive, very inclusive, and that are all about people making connections in an effort to lift each other up. And maybe that's just kind of where I can finish on this. The person who organizes the conference, called Dustin Heiner, is kind of a faith-based kind of person, and he takes some of his references from the Bible, which talk about the power of breaking bread with people, the power of fellowship, the power of community, and whether or not you come from a faith tradition yourself, whether or not that's something that you have in your life. I think those are important values and things to reflect on as far as what we're doing in our businesses, what we're doing in our real estate practice, and how we bring that into our lives, and that to the extent we can create fellowship and community for the people around us, and do that through our real estate business and through our networking. If I can leave you with something, that's the impression I want to leave from REWBCON. So, thank you for joining me for this special episode live from Phoenix, Arizona at the conference. And if you found this constructive, if you found it interesting, please go ahead and share it with a friend, like it, and we'll see you next time.